The old adage goes, a woman's place is in the kitchen, but then would a man's place be on the couch? This time we're going to ask, where is the woman's place in church? In the pew or at the pulpit? This is Puc-Cast. This week on Puc-Cast, we are honored to have Pastor Jim Pedersen, president of the Northern California Conference, with us once more. Pastor Jim, it's good to have you back. Sorry, I have to read that or else I'm going to forget.
And call me by some other title.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, always good to double check. And it's funny because when I did the intro, you mentioned that we are on a couch, and later there will be a cooking segment. So it seems only appropriate that the man is on the couch. So
Just be careful how far you take that little analogy.
yeah, I think I'll just stop right there
Okay.
before I get too tongue-tied once again. This week we're talking about women's ordination, which is a hot topic among Adventists. And we were wondering, other than in the Southern California Conference and Northern California Conference, are there any other conferences that have decided to give equal credentialing to men and women?
You know, I'm sure there are conferences out there. Southeastern California Conference, I believe, was one of the first, and we modeled what we are doing after Southeastern California Conference. I believe there are many conferences that are interested in parity for women and acknowledging their call to ministry. But I'm not sure specifically how many there may be who are doing a similar kind of credential to what we may be doing out here.
So it's not a widespread...
At this point, I'm not aware that it is.
Okay. All right. First, let me ask then, what is the difference between being commissioned and being ordained? Because most students aren't aware that there is a difference.
There is a technical difference, and the real difference is an ordination means you can function anywhere in the world within the world church.
All right.
The commission ministry has to be limited to the realm, or specifically the conference or the arena where you are currently serving. It's a bit more limited in scope. Ordination means you can function anywhere without questions around the world.
Oh, okay. So what would this technically mean for the gender question?
Commissioned ministers can really function, as the policy book says, substantially in all of the areas of ministry that anyone else does. It is just limited more in scope to the territory where you are currently working, the conference or the union where you are currently working, rather than literally around the world.
All right. Why then did the Northern California Conference decide to give credentialing to both men and women?
Well, we acknowledge the fact that there is a difference by policy, but we also wanted to limit some of that difference as it's viewed in the church, because, as you said, a lot of people don't really understand the difference or recognize that there may be a difference in the credentialing. We wanted to acknowledge female call to ministry as well as males being called to ministry, and to not give separate credential cards, but similar cards, or the same cards, just marked with both language pieces on that card. So we wanted to show that there is some parity in ministry. The call to ministry is valid, and the call to ministry is genuine for both men and women.
Here's just a quick thought that came to my head. Is it possible, once you're commissioned, to then become ordained, or once you're commissioned, you always commissioned?
I suppose there is a technicality there. In the policy, it says typically those who are being commissioned are not on the track for ordination.
All right. What are some of the common objections that arise when the people talk about women being ordained?
Well, there are several. Let me preface that by saying we are part of a world church, and we agree as churches, as conferences, as church administrators around the world to be bound by certain policies and procedures. And that's what makes us a church. So every 5 years at the General Conference session, wherever that happens to be, we discuss and talk about maybe changing some of the policies that are there that we've agreed to abide by. And one of those policies has to do with the issue of ordination, commissioning, and so on. I suppose since we are a world church, one of the biggest challenges or questions that comes for females in ministry and female ordination is a societal question where in certain parts of the world women have a different role in society than men do. Okay. And since we are a world church and ordination means you can function anywhere in the world without any reservation, there are some parts of the world where that would be a huge challenge for a female in ministry to come and serve. So a societal issue is one thing. There are also theological issues where people are viewing the role of ministry in the light of, say, the Old Testament priesthood, which was limited to men. Some New Testament passages that talk about a woman's place, whether it's in the home or in the church, and women should be silent in church and so on, seem to pull together the idea that ministry ought to be for men and not for women. Now, there are others who look at the words of Jesus where he says, in Christ and in the gospel, we are all equal. So the discussion, the debates will go on. Those are limited not just to our own discussions here, but carry over into the General Conference session, which is the worldwide session for the church.
No, I'm glad you mentioned that because I remember at the Let's Talk that Adventist World Church President Jan Paulson did at PUC, that topic came up, and he addressed it, and he said that it came up every year, every time that they did that segment, and he mentioned the same kind of problems when you have this global church. There's always going to be those cultural differences.
Right.
And my final question, there are a couple of new members on your executive staff. What can you tell us about them?
Yeah, we have a very good staff, a team that's coming together in the Northern California Conference. And we do have a couple of new players on the team. One of them is Dr. Mark Woodson, who is the new executive secretary for our conference. And he is replacing Dr. Mark Blue, who passed away, unfortunately, and very untimely a year or so ago. Mark Woodson comes to us from the Southeastern California Conference, where he's been a successful pastor in a number of the African American churches there. Most recently, he's been an associate in the youth department and currently is finishing up plans for the West Coast Youth Congress, a youth event that is taking place in San Diego in April. So he's been very involved in a number of youth-oriented events, very articulate, very intelligent. He's fitting into our team beautifully, and that is one piece that I'm so thankful has finally come together. Another new person on our staff is our new ministerial director, and that is Dr. Ivan Williams, who comes to us from the Sacramento Capital City Church. Okay. And for us, that is a little bit of a different paradigm because Northern California Conference has never had an African American ministerial director before. The majority of our churches and members are Caucasian or other ethnicities, but Ivan has such wonderful skills and ministry training and passions for it. His doctorate is in the area of ministry and affirming and nurturing and training pastors. He has good regard, he is held in good regard among our pastors, and I'm just excited he is coming on to help us with overseeing the pastoral side of our conference.
Excellent. Well, Pastor Jim, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Maybe next time I'll wear a bow tie.
Maybe so. And this has been The Men on the Couch. Now let's go to the woman in the kitchen.